So it's book 10, and apologies for the little webcam, meaning that it looks like this is about Cirque when actually it's about Circe. But anyway, book 10, we're going to have a little look at the key events from there. And so if you want to have a little look at your overview, we've got the same pattern as we had in book 9. A short story, a short story, a long story. Obviously we have the story of the bag of winds that is given to Odysseus by Aeolus. And this creates a sort of sense of mistrust between Odysseus and the crew. They obviously, because he won't tell them what's in it, they're suspicious. Because they're suspicious, when he falls asleep, they open the bag, and that's what sends them back. And it does condemn them to being lost. The Laestrygonians, this is the key encounter. There are 12 ships that he's left Troy with, and 11 of these are lost. Only his ship remains. And then we've got that slightly mysterious thing that his was the only one that was anchored outside the harbour, whilst the other 11 went inside the harbour. Should Odysseus have stayed to help? Was it too late? Was it pointless? Well, anyway, there's our two short stories. Issues of trust are beginning to emerge. The third one is the longer story. Odysseus survives his meeting with Circe. Obviously, Hermes helps him. He gives him some moly, whatever moly is, but he tells him to eat that, and that kind of keeps him safe, which proves to Circe that Odysseus has heroic qualities, and as a result, she's going to help him. Heroes get help from the gods. It's not a sign of their own weakness. So there's our key events: short story, long story, as we've talked about before. What I'd like you to do is, from the lesson where we're actually going to study the crew, I'd like you to have a little look at the exercise on the crew, and then just summarise what's happening between the crew and the captain in this box in your booklets. But you might like to ask, why has this mistrust actually started? Odysseus got them into trouble in the Cyclops cave, didn't he? He said, well, I want to stay for gifts. They said, no, let's go. And he said, no, I insist on staying. That caused trouble. 6 men were killed. After seeing Aeolus, he refuses to let them see what's in the bag. Now, if in book 9 he was desperate to get treasure and gifts, it's not unreasonable, is it, for the men to think, if we've come away with a bag from Aeolus, he must have treasure and gifts. Now, in Odysseus' telling, of course, he says it's just the winds, but why should the men think that? So there's a kind of sense of mistrust here. There's not communication. There might be a question mark about leadership. It might be a question about trust. But we've got a problem between the crew and the captain. In terms of the style and narrative techniques, I'd like you to do this as a little exercise, because we've looked through so far in the Odyssey at some epithets, some similes, feelings and emotions that get suggested through action rather than being stated overtly, repetition. There are multiple examples, and there's foreshadowing, there's patterns of 3. What I'd like you to do is have a look through book 10, and you'll find examples of all of those. So if you go through and find examples of each of those, that will build your sense of Homer's style and his narrative techniques. So you can pause the video, and then you can go and have a look at those, and then you can come back and finish this off. If you've followed instructions, well done for pausing. Welcome back. In terms of character developments, Circe and Calypso are, they're an interesting comparison to make, aren't they? Because obviously we meet Circe, we get to know her in book 10. There are similarities, aren't they? They both desire Odysseus and use sex or love to keep him. Circe keeps him for a year, Calypso keeps him for 7 years. They've got strange powers. In book 5, line 267, Calypso brings up a breeze for him when he leaves the island. But they're untrustworthy, aren't they? In that reference in book 5, that's where Odysseus says, "Oh, well, I'm not going to trust you just saying you're going to let me go. I don't trust you." And in book 10, he also expresses this idea to Circe. So line 335, 345, if you want to have a look at it, what happens is Odysseus says to Circe, "How can you order me to be gentle with you, you who have turned my friends into pigs here in your house?" Unsurprisingly, you might think that is a bit untrustworthy of her. And she says, "And now that you have me too in your clutches, are inveigling me into your bedroom," which means kind of luring me into your bedroom, "and inviting me into your bed to strip me naked and rob me of my courage and manhood." Understandably, he's saying, I'm not going to bed with you with the suspicion of you turning me into a pig or doing something else weird, whatever that might be. As a result, he says, "Nothing, goddess, would induce me to come into your bed unless you can bring yourself to swear a solemn oath that you have no other mischief in store for me." Well, that's probably quite sensible, isn't it, given what she's done already to the rest of the crew, and that's what he gets from her. So there, she's quite untrustworthy. 378 to 379. She also questions him a little bit later on, saying, "Do you suspect another trap? Really?" And she says, "Surely you trust me now." But that shows that he doesn't actually. So there's a picture of Calypso from a 1929 illustration. There's one of Circe, also a kind of Victorian thing. And I suspect that the bit I'm about to reveal is going to disappear behind my webcam face. Sorry about that. What I wanted to pick out here is Circe does have more of an ability in terms of magical powers than Calypso. She knows about the future. She can foretell the future. She's seen things. Both of them control Odysseus, but Calypso forces Odysseus under her control, whereas Circe's using voluntary persuasion, isn't she? Calypso has to trap him on the island to keep him there, whereas Circe actually isn't kidnapping him and controlling him there, and he can leave when he wants to, which eventually he does when the crew ask him. So there's something more about Circe that gives her a bit more of a kind of, once she's come round to supporting Odysseus, a more benign character. Calypso seems to only grudgingly give her help once things have got out of her control, when she's been told off by Hermes. So there's your overview of Book 10. And I'll remember, if I'm going to do the video camera again, not to do typing down in the bottom right-hand corner, because that's a bit silly, isn't it? But hopefully it's all clear, and that is Book 10 for you.